Hello, and thanks for joining me for the Wizard Hour. I'm just going to do a number of things. We're going to do some readings in this time of physical isolation, but togetherness virtually. I'm going to do a reading from Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer. It's a really beautiful book. Highly recommend it. Just a little bit of poetry, a little bit of talk about what's happening in the world, a project I'm launching that will be co-created with all of you, I hope. And we'll play a little overtone music to finish this up. So, first off, I'm just going to read a little bit of Braiding Sweetgrass, which is indigenous wisdom, scientific knowledge, and the teachings of the plants. I was happening to read this recently, and I found it to be quite beautifully written. The content is amazing, and I think it's something we should be paying attention to and heeding the wisdom of these words in this time. Hold out your hands and let me lay upon them a sheaf of freshly picked sweetgrass, loose and flowing like newly washed hair. Golden green and glossy above, the stems are banded with purple and white where they meet the ground. Hold the bundle up to your nose. Find the fragrance of honeyed vanilla over the scent of river water and black earth, and you understand its scientific name. Hirochloi odorata, meaning the fragrant holy grass. In our language, it is called wingashk, the sweet-smelling hair of Mother Earth. Breathe it in, and you start to remember things you didn't know you'd forgotten. A sheaf of sweetgrass, bound at the end and divided into thirds, is ready to braid. In braiding sweetgrass so that it is smooth, glossy, and worthy of the gift, a certain amount of tension is needed. As any little girl with tight braids will tell you, you have to pull a bit. Of course, you can do it yourself by tying one end to a chair or by holding it in your teeth and braiding backwards from yourself. But the sweetest way is to have someone else hold the end so that you pull gently against each other, all the while leaning in, head to head, chatting and laughing, watching each other's hands, one holding steady, while the other shifts the slim bundles over one another, each in its turn. Linked by sweetgrass, there's reciprocity between you. Linked by sweetgrass, the holder is as vital as the braider. The braid becomes finer and thinner as you near the end, until you're braiding individual leaves of grass, and then you tie it off. Will you hold the end of the bundle while I braid? Hands joined by grass, can we bend our heads together and make a braid to honor the earth? And then I'll hold it for you while you braid too. I could hand you a braid of sweetgrass, as thick and shining as the plate that hung down my grandmother's back. But it is not mine to give, nor yours to take. Wingashk belongs to herself. So I offer, in its place, a braid of stories meant to heal our relationship with the world. This braid is woven from 3 strands: indigenous ways of knowing, scientific knowledge, and the story of an Anishinaabegwe scientist trying to bring them together in service to what matters most. It is an intertwining of science, spirit, and story, old stories and new ones that can be medicine for our broken relationship with Earth. A pharmacopoeia of healing stories that will allow us to imagine a different relationship in which people and land are good medicine for each other. Sweetgrass is best planted not by seed, but by putting roots directly in the ground. Thus the plant is passed from hand to earth to hand across years and generations. Its favorite habitat is sunny, well-watered meadows. It thrives along disturbed edges. Sky Woman Falling. In winter, when the earth... Maybe the train passing as the horn is a reminder to be present. Sky Woman Falling. In winter, when the green earth lies resting beneath a blanket of snow, this is the time for storytelling. The storytellers begin by calling upon those who came before, who passed the stories down to us, for we are only messengers. In the beginning, there was the sky world. She fell like a maple seed, pirouetting on an autumn breeze. A column of light streamed from a hole in the sky world, marking her path where only darkness had been before. It took her a long time to fall. In fear, or maybe hope, she clutched tightly a bundle in her hand. Hurtling downward, she saw only dark water below. But in that emptiness, there were many eyes gazing up at the sudden shaft of light. They saw there a small object, a mere dust mote in the beam. As it grew closer, they could see that it was a woman, arms outstretched, long black hair billowing behind her as she spiraled down toward them. The geese nodded at one another and rose together from the water in a wave of goose music. She felt the beat of their wings as they flew beneath to break her fall. Far from the only home she'd ever known, she caught her breath at the warm embrace of soft feathers as they gently carried her downward, and so it began. The geese could not hold the woman above the water for much longer, so they called a council to decide what to do. Resting on their wings, she saw them all gather. Loons, otters, swans, beavers, fish of all kinds. A great turtle floated in their midst and offered his back for her to rest upon. Gratefully, she stepped from the goose wings onto the dome of his shell. The others understood that she needed land for her home and discussed how they might serve her need. The deep divers among them had heard of mud at the bottom of the water and agreed to go find some. Loon dove first, but the distance was too far, and after a long while he surfaced with nothing to show for his efforts. One by one, the other animals offered to help: otter, beaver, sturgeon. But the depth, the darkness, and the pressures were too great for even the strongest of the swimmers. They returned gasping for air with their heads ringing. Some did not return at all. Soon only little Muskrat was left, the weakest diver of all. He volunteered to go while the others looked on doubtfully. His small legs flailed as he worked his way downward, and he was gone a very long time. They waited and waited for him to return, fearing the worst for their relative, and before long a stream of bubbles rose with the small, limp body of the muskrat. He had given his life to aid this helpless human. But then the others noticed that his paw was tightly clenched, and when they opened it, there was a small handful of mud. Turtle said, "Here, put it on my back, and I will hold it." Sky Woman bent and spread the mud with her hands across the shell of the turtle. Moved by the extraordinary gifts of the animals, she sang in thanksgiving and then began to dance, her feet caressing the earth. The land grew and grew as she danced her thanks, from the dab of mud on Turtle's back until the whole earth was made. Not by Sky Woman alone, but from the alchemy of all the animals' gifts, coupled with her deep gratitude. Together they formed what we know today as Turtle Island, our home. Like any good guest, Sky Woman had not come up empty-handed. The bundle was still clutched in her hand. When she toppled from the hole in the sky world, she had reached out to grab onto the tree of life that grew there. In her grasp were branches, fruits and seeds of all kinds of plants. These she scattered onto the new ground and carefully tended each one until the world turned from brown to green. Sunlight streamed through the hole from the sky world, allowing the seeds to flourish. Wild grasses, flowers, trees, and medicines spread everywhere. and now that the animals too had plenty to eat, many came to live with her on Turtle Island. Our stories say that of all the plants, wingashk, or sweetgrass, was the very first to grow on earth. Its fragrance a sweet memory of Sky Woman's hand. Accordingly, it is honored as one of the 4 sacred plants of my people. Breathe in its scent, and you start to remember things you didn't know you'd forgotten. Our elders say that ceremonies are the way we remember to remember. And so sweetgrass is a powerful ceremonial plant cherished by many indigenous nations. It is also used to make beautiful baskets, both medicine and a relative. Its value is both material and spiritual. There is such tenderness in braiding the hair of someone you love. Kindness and something more flow between the braider and the braided, the two connected by the cord of the plait. Wingashk waves and strands, long and shining like a woman's freshly washed hair. And so we say, it is the flowing hair of Mother Earth. When we braid sweetgrass, we are braiding the hair of Mother Earth, showing her our loving attention, our care for her beauty and well-being, in gratitude for all she has given us. Children hearing the Sky Woman's story from birth know in their bones the responsibility that flows between humans and the earth. The story of Sky Woman's journey is so rich and glittering, it feels to me like a deep bowl of celestial blue from which I could drink again and again. It holds our beliefs, our history, our relationships. Looking into that starry bowl, I see images swirling so fluidly that the past and the present become as one. Images of Sky Woman speak not just of where we came from, but also of how we can go forward. So, we'll stop there. I'll be reading this loud over the next coming weeks or months or maybe years. I also wanted to read this famous piece by Sitting Bull on Mother Earth from 1877. The spring has returned. The earth is glad to feel the new embrace of the sun. Every seed will awaken and every animal will think of increase. All will share the sun and the soil. We will yield to our neighbors, even our animal neighbors, the same right as we claim to inhabit the land. But we now have to deal with another breed of people. There were few and weak when our forefathers first met them, and now they are many and greedy. They chose to till the soil. Love the possessions is a disease with them. Love of possessions. They would make rules to suit themselves. They have a religion which they follow when it suits them. They claim this Mother Earth of ours for their own and fence their neighbors away from them. They degrade the landscape with their buildings and their waste. They compel the natural earth to produce excessively, and when it fails, they force it to take medicine to produce more. This is an evil. This new population is like a river overflowing its banks and destroying all in its path. We cannot live the way these people live, and we cannot live beside them. They have little respect for nature, and they offend our ideals. Just 7 years ago, we signed a treaty by which the buffalo country was to be ours and unspoiled forever. Now they want it. They want the gold in it. Will we yield? They will kill me before I will give up the land that is our land. So I just wanted to reflect a little bit about where we are in the world. There's a lot of beautiful, amazing, inspiring stories coming out of many different places, and I'm just really happy to see so much of humanity coming together in this crisis. There will be obviously tragedies and hard times ahead, maybe, but I think if we pull together in a deeply meaningful way, we have seen that change to our systems can happen really quickly once we put our minds to it. All of this climate change that's happened the Paris Accord goals are now actually being met because of this virus. There's relatively no pollution left in China. There's clean water in Venice. There's mountains, ranges that can be seen in Los Angeles for the first time in a long time. And it's about that idea of being good stewards of our planet. And we are a planetary species, no matter what Elon Musk wants to do to go to Mars. There's not going to be that many people. Most of us are going to be here. And that's our beautiful home, that nourishes us. And we have to focus on nourishing it. And along that vein, since it seems like healthcare in the U.S. universal healthcare is actually quite easy, and a universal basic income is doable, and corporations don't need to be bailed out for, their negligence. With that in mind, we have an opportunity here to really create systemic change. And so one of the things I've been thinking about this is that there's an inherent danger to storytelling. It can be inspirational and good, or it can be propaganda and used to control people and hold people back from their actual rights as a human being. So with that in mind, I've been thinking that dictatorships and fascists and propaganda machines, they're all controlled narratives that are disseminated from a central node and forced upon people. And my idea is to actually co-create the story of our future together. So I'm going to be launching something with the Dojo Upstate, Josh and Eliza, in which we will come together virtually and in a live, interactive setting, co-create the story of our future. And what we're going to do, it's called In a World Where. And you know those movie trailers that have been prepping us for Armageddon or some sort of pandemic or natural disaster? And now we're in, for all intents and purposes, a real challenging time for the Earth ahead of us and for humanity as a whole. So hopefully those movies prepped you to a certain degree. But instead, you know how those trailers, those films always go, in a world where one man. Instead of that trope going into a dystopia, what if we took that and imagined the worlds that we actually want to live in the future? We have the tools, we have humanity here willing to change, but how do we create that story? I think we co-create it together. So I'm inviting people to submit their In a World Where story of, in a world, how do you want to raise your children? What kind of food do you want to eat? What's your relationship to your neighbors, to your community, to the land, to the nation, to the world, to the ocean, to the animals, to the plants? What's that world that is the world you want to live in? And then send that to me at ianrowan, IANROWAN, @gmail.com, and we'll start to put all these stories together and co-create a meta-narrative for the world we want to live in. And then we'll also do it live with improvisational music with Josh and Eliza at the Dojo Upstate. Another little project of mine that I think is important in a time like this is called the I Love You Letter Project. And it's simply an authentic expression of love from the individual to the rest of humanity. And that's called, that's at iloveyouletter.org. And you can submit your own in your own language, in your own way, a sincere I love you video, and anyone can go to the website and be told sincerely that they are loved. And I think that's actually something physiologically that we need, especially if we're in isolation, which a lot of the country and the world is in right now. So I encourage you to submit, and you can send that to my email as well. I'm going to read a couple little more things and then play some music. And so this is a little piece I wrote at some point. What stops a moment in its place? What leaves the now a shimmering trace? Notes strung together in time, music's ephemeral chime, sonic vibrations in the air, drumming atoms like a snare. What stops a moment in its place? Notes strung together in time, sonic vibrations in the air. What leaves the now a shimmering trace? Music's ephemeral chime, drumming atoms like a snare. This only happens in the now, so dance since you know how. I've got a bunch of poems and stories and books and science fiction things I've written, and I'll periodically just be pulling from those and reading them to you. I don't usually share a lot of my stories, so I'm really excited to start doing that. So yeah, it's March 22nd. Day, I don't know what for me, of isolation. Feels like 20 days, but this is actually how I normally live. In the forest here at Two Moons Ranch. The sun is out, it's almost sunset. We'll play a little music. I'll bid you a good night. to the present. Wherever you've been, thank you for joining me. This has been the Wizard Variety Hour at Two Moons Ranch. I'm Ian, otherwise known as Treasure Fox, father of the wolf, Kala. I'll be doing more of these soon. Thank you so much. I hope you have a splendid time going inwards in isolation. There's so much constantly unfolding from within us. And this is the gift you have been forcibly given and voluntarily chosen. So thank you for physically distancing and isolating yourselves so humanity can survive this virus. Every bit that you do for yourself, you do for the rest of humanity. So thank you.